In this position, I played the move bishop takes h7. Bam! What exactly is this? Is this a winning combination for white, or is this just a piece blunder? We shall see, so stay tuned and watch how I punish a master because he does not follow basic opening principles. Hello friends, welcome to another video. This is Niraj. And in today's video, we shall see a very short game which was played by me. I would like to call it a miniature. And just to get an understanding about the game, let us talk about the tournament situation. This is my game from a tournament that I played in the year 2019. It was a final round game. Prior to the game, I was on joint second spot, and there were a truckload of players, probably around 8 more players on the same score. So it kind of felt like a must win if I had to get probably a top 3 finish. It felt like I had to win this game, and I was playing a very strong player, and I had to I had to make sure that I really press hard, and that was my motto from move one. I just had to go for it, so I went with d5, opened with d4. My opponent is a strong 2300 rated player here. He opened with f5. So before the game, I did not expect the Dutch, but I kind of had an idea that maybe my opponent would play something other than knight f6 because he wanted to avoid the Trompowsky. So on the board, I made this decision to play this Taunton Gambit. Rather than going for a closed game in the Dutch, I decided let's sacrifice the pawn right in the center of the board and let's see where it takes us. So I played the move e4, and black is kind of forced to take with f takes e4. I develop my knight and I'm attacking the pawn. So, I mean, as of now, the Staunton Gambit, after knight c3, it's not a permanent pawn sacrifice. If white wants, he can regain the pawn back right away. In this position, black cannot defend the e4 pawn with d5. This would be a very bad move for black because white just goes queen h5 check. Black would have to go g6, blocking the check, and white can just play the move queen takes d5. So what exactly happens here is white has regained the pawn, and the e4 pawn of black is pretty weak as well. So over a period of time, white will get the e4 pawn and will be a pawn up. So my opponent did not play this, and for knight c3, he played the move knight f6. So what exactly is my opponent doing here? He's developing a piece as well as defending the pawn, which makes complete sense. I played the move bishop g5, and I'm developing a piece. I'm also renewing the threat that if I wish to, I could always capture back on f6 and then regain the pawn on e4. And that would make material equal. So as of now, I'm still not really, I haven't really sacrificed the pawn, and in this version, d5 again would not be possible because of the same threat. Bishop takes f6, pawn takes f6, we have queen h5 check, g6, and queen takes d5. So black has some real trouble defending this pawn. Queen takes d5 would be led with knight takes d5, and the problem is black just drops a pawn, or maybe 2 pawns in fact, because I think he would have to defend this, and however he defends this, probably he would lead to a couple of pawns down. And this was definitely not ideal for black. So in this position, for bishop g5, my opponent played the move c6. And on c6, I was a little confused because I really didn't see what c6 exactly did. Obviously, c6 has the idea of keeping the pawn and playing d5 on the next move. So what does c6 do? c6 actually just defends the d5 square. Probably that is the only thing the move d6 does. So in this position, I decided that, okay, I'm not going to go bishop takes f6. Instead, let me just permanently just sacrifice the pawn, and I played the move f3. So f3 is a permanent pawn sacrifice, but what is white getting in return? In this game, you will see that I really punish my opponent's lack of development. And a move like f3 just can go e takes f3, knight takes f3. And if you look at this position, white has developed far more pieces than black has. And also white has easier development as compared to black's bishops, which are locked up. Black's knight, which unfortunately cannot come to c6. So I was comfortable sacrificing the pawn. I would say that white has some real compensation. My opponent realized that he would be completely on the back foot and decided not to accept the pawn sack, but instead went with the move queen a5. So queen a5 hits on my bishop. And what can I do here? I can go bishop takes f6, but I was in no mood to ease his development and recapture the pawn. No, this was a big no for me. So in this position, since my queen was attacked, I tried to find a way how I could protect the bishop while still developing a piece. And I played the move queen d2 here. Obviously, protecting the bishop, also kind of removing the spin. And yes, I've developed a piece. White is also ready to castle long. Here my opponent played the move e3. So after all this, my opponent just gives back the pawn. And the reason why my opponent played the move e3 is he doesn't want my knight. I mean, like if you go e takes f3, white goes knight takes f3. White's knight has a very nice square, and potentially could also maybe end up on e5 later in the game. So when my opponent plays the move e3, he's hoping that my knight cannot come into the game from here, which kind of made sense. It was an obvious choice for me after e3 as to how I must capture the pawn. And I played the move bishop takes e3. The bishop has done its job on g5. I do not want to go queen takes e3 because my opponent has ideas of going knight d5. And there's a basic rule, a general principle in chess is that when you are ahead in development, try not to exchange pieces. Do not exchange your developed pieces if you are ahead in development. So I went ahead and I played the move bishop takes pawn. Materially, we are equal, and my opponent played the move d5. So finally, my opponent decides that he has to focus on development. And when he plays the move d5, it's pretty evident that if it was black to play, he would have probably played the move bishop f5. So, his next move was going to be bishop f5. So what I did here was I played the move bishop to d3. What does bishop d3 exactly do? Apart from developing a piece, I also stop my opponent from playing the move bishop f5. So if he plays bishop f5, I can just capture bishop takes f5, and that's a piece. So in this position, my opponent has some difficulties because a bishop on e6 would not be so great because the bishop on f8 is locked up. A bishop on d7 would take away the square from this knight. So there is a little dilemma here as to how black will be developing his pieces. Black went and played the move knight b d7. And the idea of knight b d7 is very clear. Developing a knight and having the idea of e5. So in this position, black has the idea of e5, opening up this bishop. And I did not want this to happen. E5 just eases the pressure a little for black, and I just couldn't have let it happen. So in this position, one move that I was really considering was the move f4, permanently stopping the threat of e5. But I was not really satisfied. I mean, a move like f4 also facilitates my knight move to f3 as well to e5, So visually it looks extremely good, but then a move like f4 has a drawback as well. In this position, my e3 bishop is not doing great. And it's kind of blocked by my own pawns. And that was something that I was not willing to do. So just in order to stop the move e5, I played the move bishop f4. And black plays b5. Now this is really careless from black. Mind you, my opponent is a pretty high rated player. He's 2300, but nobody escapes nobody survives if they don't follow the opening principles. So we've played 9 moves, and my opponent has played 6 pawn moves. 6 out of 9 were pawn moves. And then for b5, actually, I think I could have played a move like knight e2, or I could have just castle maybe, but I decided to play the move a3. Just making sure that black anyway does not have b4 here, because if he plays b4, obviously I can't capture this because my rook hangs. But for the move b4, I just was planning to go knight a2, and the problem is this pawn is attacked by 1, 2, 3. We have 3 attackers. Black just has 1 defender, and unfortunately black can't play pawn takes pawn because he hangs his queen. So yes, this was my plan, and my opponent played the move queen b6. Again, out of 10 moves, 6 pawn moves, and he has played the same queen twice. He's played the queen twice, whilst actually he should be trying to develop some other pieces. And nobody will escape this, and you should be punished regardless. You being an amateur, a club player, you may be an international master or grandmaster, but if you do not follow the opening principles, you shall be punished. So for the move queen b6, I continued my development, but this time with knight h3. So what exactly does knight h3 do? I have developed a knight. I'm ready to castle on either side, and more importantly, my knight seems to be coming boom, boom, boom. Knight e5, knight e6, knight e7. This looks absolutely menacing. And the problem is, to avoid knight e5, black can't even play the move h6 because there is bishop g6 check. Black loses his castling as well as the bishop on f8, the rook on h8. It seems pretty hard, how he's going to come back. Also in this position for knight h3, oops, sorry, I think black can't play the move queen takes d4 here, because that would help me win the queen with this nice cute little tactic, a discovered attack on the queen. That's a check. You capture my bishop, I capture your queen, and I'm very happy, should be winning the game. So when I played the move knight h3, my opponent realized that he's in deep trouble here, and knight g5 is an extremely strong threat, because if I go knight g5, it's really hard to see how black could actually stop the move knight e6. So in this position, my opponent played another pawn move. Oof. This can't go unpunished, right? So this had to be punished, and I went knight g5. So, the idea of a6 here, is that when I play the move knight g5, he can play c5, and he's actually defending this pawn, or else the b5 pawn would just be hanging, right? So that was what he was intending to do, and that's what happened. Knight g5, c5. Again, just a reminder, of the 12 moves, my opponent has played 8 pawn moves. 8 pawn moves and 3 developing moves in 12. Just doesn't work. I went pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn. And in this position, there's a beautiful little tactic here for white. So, if you develop your pieces well, or if you just develop your pieces and your opponent has not developed your pieces, there is an extremely good chance, that you will be presented with some sort of tactical blow. With all the good things that happen in your position, at the end, there will be this cute little combination that will allow you to finish off the game. So we are just on move number 14, and a tactical opportunity presented itself to me, and I went ahead and took bishop takes h7. Boom! Just like that, I've captured a pawn, I'm sacrificing a piece. But my opponent cannot play knight takes h7, because for knight takes h7, I just play knight takes d5. Your queen is attacked, and I also have this deadly little threat of knight c7 check. You do not have the move queen e6 because obviously there's knight takes. So if you move your queen anywhere else, I can just play the move knight c7 check. Your king has nowhere to go, and you have to give up your queen. For knight takes g5, I will go queen d5. That's a family little folk there. I think that's just curtains for black, right? So in this position, knight takes h7 couldn't have been played, and my opponent played the move rook takes h7. And after this next move, my opponent just resigned. So I played the move knight takes d5. And for knight takes d5, uh, I have knight e7. And what does my opponent do? He has to capture. He resigned here, but the game could have followed knight takes d5, queen takes d5. Currently, I'm a piece down, but I'm attacking this and this. And I also have a deadly threat of queen f7. So regardless of what black does here, let's say, for example, black defends this rook, maybe let's say with rook b8. I just go queen f7 check. This, I think I can just castle as well, maybe. And I think this is just mate, right? Next, queen takes f8 check is just mate. Okay, so I mean, for queen takes d5, he could also have played rook h8. I would have probably just continued with queen takes a8. I can actually, I think maybe a stronger move would also be long castles here. Long castle seems to be a stronger move because I have this threat of queen f7 mate, and I'm still threatening this. So why not develop my last piece? That's my rook, and completely annihilate black. So that's what I did here. And this game just goes to show, at knight takes d5, my opponent just resigned because he had had enough. A lot of people were watching the game and they were like surprised, did we make a quick draw? Because that was the last thing that would have happened in that tournament situation. It was not to be. I punished my opponent's horrible opening play, and it just goes to show that anyone who does not follow opening principles or any concepts of chess can get punished. It's there's no exception. So I hope you enjoyed this game. If you found it instructive, please do hit the like button. Let us know in the comment section what would you like to see in our future videos, and if you haven't hit the bell icon there, do hit it to get notified for some more awesome content that the Go on Chess Trio shall be posting. See you soon next time.